been murdered. All the friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. And the bird said nevermore.
You're listening to the Call Podcast with Brandon and Josh.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new edition of The Call. It is a Baltimore Ravens podcast where we talk anything and everything Baltimore Ravens football. Thank you all for listening to us on all of your favorite podcast platforms, especially Overcast. And we are proud members of the Fans First Sports Network. What's going on, everybody? How's it going? It is Purple Friday. That's right. It is week 2. It is the 30th anniversary party weekend for the Baltimore Ravens as they welcome Joe Flacco and the Cleveland Browns to M&T Bank Stadium for our home opener. So, what's going on, everybody? Josh, he's here with me, as always. Josh, you've been holding the fort down, doing the wake-up calls, doing the fantasy stuff this week.
Yeah, man.
How's it going, man? How you doing?
Been busy.
You're a busy guy.
Been busy, man. Riding solo. Good to be with you. Yeah, the return. And I'm surrounded by Joe Flacco in this room. It's a little weird. It's going to be a little weird, man. I mean, I know the Ravens have faced off against Flacco once before, but that was in New York, or call it New Jersey for that matter, against the Jets. And I was present for that game on the road. And obviously the Ravens, were able to handle Joe Flacco in that game. But yeah, man, this is the first time Joe Flacco since the exit from the Ravens in 2018 that he's going to return to Baltimore as a starter. Who'd have thought, man? 2018, 8 years later, Joe Flacco's still doing his thing.
Still doing it, man.
Yeah, man. And I thought he'd be retired, honestly. So good for him. Good for him to still do his thing in the league. And, we wish him all the success. But this weekend, man, he's the enemy. He's in the division, and he's playing against the Ravens this weekend. And what's going to be interesting is the reception. Because a lot of the chatter this week is like, what do you do? What do you do as a fan, right? Like, if you're present, like, do you clap? Do you salute him? Do you boo? Do you stay neutral and do anything? Everybody's asking me what I'm going to do. I have no idea. Maybe it'll be in the moment. Maybe I'll clap and say, hey, Joe, when he walks out of the tunnel. But hey, when the whistle blows, he's the enemy. But I look at it, man, he's the enemy. You can celebrate all he did, but for right now, on Sunday, he's trying to beat the Baltimore Ravens, and we don't like that, do we? So you have to remember that. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be fun. It's going to be emotionally charged. But yeah, it's going to be the home opener, and I can't wait.
Yeah, Joe Flacco did a lot as a Baltimore Raven, brought us our second Super Bowl. What an amazing run he had in 2012 during the playoffs. I mean, it's stuff legends are made of. And the guy has been a journeyman since being let go by the Baltimore Ravens in favor of Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's played for Denver and Indy and Philadelphia and New York and Cleveland. I mean, all over the place. I will always be a fan of Joe Flacco. Obviously, this week's going to be a little rough because he's he's on the other side of the field in M&T Bank, but he's got a love of the game. Like, you really got to respect that. The dude is in his 40s. I'm there now. I mean, it's a whole different feeling after you're 40, and the guy's still playing well. I mean, look at what he did week 1 against the Cincinnati Bengals, another AFC North team, which, I mean, no slouch to them. They were able to get the win, but Joe looks solid in that game. The dude is in his 40s. He's still playing well, and he's still got that cannon of an arm. Yeah.
And he doesn't have really the weapons around him. The receiving core is a little depleted. I mean, Jerry Jeudy's still a playmaker, but apart from that, I mean, you got David Njoku in the tight end position. But you look at the Browns roster right now, and their other receivers are Jamari Thrash and Cedric Tillman. And most people are like, who? It's a little bit different Browns team that we're used to seeing now. Defensively, it's pretty much still the same guys, right? You got Myles Garrett's going to wreak havoc, and you're going to have to really account for him in the defensive scheme or offensively, and putting maybe some double teams out there. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Joe can do offensively, moving the ball. We know his skill set is not running out of the pocket. So if the concern here is the Ravens, there's a lot to unpack this week, the aftermath of the debacle, but one of the most glaring things was the lack of pass rush. Now, Madubuike he's been banged up. He was limited, did not practice, this past week on Wednesday. So remains to be seen, right? What comes out later today when the injury report is fully released. Madubuike had some pressures. I think he had a sack. I even forgot about the sack that he had because I felt like the Ravens, the big problem on defense was lack of pass rush. It was a clean pocket for Allen, and that's why he was able to dissect the secondary the way he did. So, I'm looking to see what the Ravens can do defensively to get back on track because they have a big stain on themselves. They let the Bills just at will go right down the field, and there's a lot of blame to go around. The offensive scheme in the fourth quarter, as we know, the Ravens, it's no secret. They have to close out games. Before we kind of move forward, really, and get into this thing, haven't really talked to you yet. This is the first time talking to you on the podcast. What are your feelings from Sunday, right? Yeah, I really want to just start there, if I may. What are you feeling? What are your feelings from Sunday? Are you still upset? Are you letting it go? What do you think the problems might be? It's a lot, man. And I think, and from the fan base chatter on local radio and social media, fans are sick and tired of it, and they want accountability.
I mean, if you look at social media and you look at, like you said, the local radio stations and stuff, you'd think the season's already over. You'd think that it's right. Week one and we've lost the Super Bowl and whatever. This is a playoff team. Let's just be fully honest. This is a playoff team. But at the same time, I feel like we've seen all this before. Like I wasn't shocked that the game was lost because same old Ravens. They can't finish it out. How many times are we going to have to see this, that the Ravens are just going to be the same old Ravens, play, phenomenal throughout 3.5 quarters of that game. But 2 minutes left. It's its own game. Those final 2 minutes, it's a different team. And I think this team just gets gassed. As much as I enjoy seeing the team put up 40 points, they don't have to do that every single game, and I don't want them to. I feel like the offense is doing really, really well, and maybe just slow it down a little bit so the defense can have a breather, because the defense completely fell on its face during the last part of that game. And me, everybody on this podcast knows I've said it. I think Zach Orr is going to be a head coach in the NFL, maybe 5 years down the road. This was an awful performance by the defensive coordinator. I think Zach Orr is extremely talented, but I don't know if it's early season jitters or what. He's going into a second year, so he shouldn't have those. But the defense got eaten alive. Marlon Humphrey came out this week and said, it's really disappointing because this is what we practice all off season. All training camp was 2-minute drills. Obviously, it didn't sink in. So Josh Allen was able to carve up this team during the last 2 minutes. Nate Wiggins got picked on big time. If there was a play to be made, Josh Allen was targeting the guy that Nate Wiggins was covering. So it was like Nate Wiggins was not even a factor on this defense whatsoever. So, things need to get figured out real quick. We keep doing the same thing over and over again. I'm kind of mad at myself because going into this in training camp, I was again excited for the season. And I'm like, this is it. The Ravens have finally figured it out on paper. This team is indestructible. And here we are again, week one with an 0-1 record. So it sucks. It's ridiculous. But at the same time, I say all that, it's only week one. They've got 16 more games to go in this 18-week schedule. So can they learn from it? Sure. If they're going to be doing this again and it's week 5 or 6 and we're losing in the last 2 minutes yet again, then that's where I start to get worried. Week one is an outlier. The teams that look fantastic in week one aren't going to look great in week 18.
And I
But
get that.
I do think like it sucks that this loss happened because there are huge ramifications come January on home field advantage and that kind of stuff. But we're going to see this team again. Same thing I said last year. Listen to the call from a year ago talking about the Chiefs and the Ravens. And I was like, if the Ravens don't win this game against the Chiefs, they're not going to win in January. I didn't say that this time around, but I did predict a loss because I don't think the Ravens know who they are right now. I don't. And I think they're still trying to figure it out. And it sucks that they're doing this in the regular season, but it's only week 1. There's plenty of more football to be played. And luckily week 2, you're up against an AFC North opponent in the Cleveland Browns that didn't put a lot of points up on the board, but still will be a good test for the offense and the defense.
Yeah, you bring up good points there. You brought up something I was going to touch on, right? Like, it's week 1. There's 16 games left in a 17-game schedule, right, with a bye week. And you touched on, like, week 1, they can get over it and they'll be a playoff team, right? But, it is a massive loss because of the AFC arms race, right? Because now you're a game behind the Bills. We already know that if the Ravens were to somehow tie the Bills record-wise, obviously the Bills own the head-to-head, and this could be a huge, massive loss for a playoff seeding implications, right? And you really don't want to focus on that week 1 because you have to remind yourself it is only week 1 of this long NFL season that's upon us, right? But this is one they had to have, and they had it in the bag, and it's like, here we go. And it's like they did the things in a regular season game here that they kind of really do in the playoffs, right? It's like you just got to learn to put teams away. And all the talk about all the blown leads over the years and all that, like imagine if all those wins were flipped. Ravens could have had 1 seeds like pretty much every year almost. And it's a shame. They've blown since 2022 6 double-digit leads in the fourth quarter alone since 2022. And you heard me on the wake-up call going down the gambit of the games dating back to even the Flacco era, where I was there in the divisional playoff where they had 2 14-point leads. I mean, the problem is that was different personnel. That was not Lamar. That was Joe Flacco. There's one common denominator, and that's John Harbaugh. Obviously, we've been through different coordinators on both sides, so that's one common denominator. And as much as I've been a Harbaugh guy, as you all know, you're starting to see my page turning on that where I'm kind of like, is that message getting stale, and is he not the coach that closes games out? I didn't bring this up on the wake-up call, but I kind of want to state it here. Over the past weekend, week 2 in the college football, you had Alabama roll a team 73-0. You had Ohio State roll a team 70-0. Brandon, the scores are crazy, right? 70 points. The other team scored 0. They didn't kick a field goal, 0. Do you think those college teams got comfortable when they were up 28 points, 30 points, and said, you know what, let's pack it in? No. Kept scoring. There's a clip out there from years ago where Nick Saban, when he was coaching Alabama, I think they were up like 50 points or 59 points, like with a minute to go. And he was like yelling and screaming at a guy for like doing something wrong on the field, and he had to call timeout. And he was irate, took the headset off, and he was like he was mad. He coached all the way to the end. I'm like, I don't see that fire out of Harbaugh. Actually, I don't see that fire amongst many NFL coaches. You really see that in the college ranks, but I'm looking for that like guy to, light that fire and be aggressive. And then Todd Monken and his schemes, I don't know what it is, man. I mean, the Ravens, the last 3 possessions in the fourth quarter when they could have closed the game out, they had 410 yards of offense on 8 drives and scored 40 points, and then they went punt, fumble, punt, and not even had 20 yards of offense. And the jet sweep of Zay Flowers is still bothering me, and it's just like to you, like I even said it at the I laughed when the field goal happened. I looked at my buddy Dave, we just started laughing, and I'm like, maybe I was just naive. Maybe I was naive to think that like the Ravens actually could close it out, right? And I was like, ha, joke's on me. It sucks. Could have cashed in on it, and I didn't. My better judgment, but and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this game. If this game's somehow close, or if the Ravens have a double-digit lead heading into the fourth quarter, we're going to sit there and go, here we go again. hold into your seats, man. Buckle up, because can they close it out? And until they start learning that from coaching on down, they're just going to be a playoff team. They're not going to be a championship contender, Brandon, because they're not going to learn how to close out games. And the great teams and the great championship teams learn to close. You think about, hate to go across the aisle to the Yankees, but you think about in some of the closers, as soon as you think about closers in baseball, right? Mariano Rivera, one of the best in the business, right? All those times. How dominant was he for the New York Yankees? Like, you knew when the Yankees had a lead in the ninth, you throw out Rivera on the mound, you knew it was done, right? Like, you think about closers. You're talking about guys who can actually, like, you rely on to close the game. And to take the ball out of 8 and 22's hands, and I don't want to sound like a broken record because I've talked about this all week, right? But the jet sweep to save Flowers, like, yeah, I understand we have playmakers all across. I'm not discounting what Bateman can do, Zay can do, Mark Andrews can do, even though Mark Andrews was MIA. They're trusting their guys, and I get that. But when the game's on the line and they amassed over 250 yards on the ground with two players, essentially, it's Lamar and Henry. You got to go. You got to put the ball in one of those guys' hands and dare the Bill. I want to say Browns. Bills to stop it. So, and you don't think that the Browns know what the Ravens' flaws are, right? They're like, okay, they know that they have defensive lapses, and that's why I said, like, Joe Flacco's probably like in shops, like this defense, like, and look, Joe Flacco, in my opinion, should be a Hall of Famer. Very well could be due to his resume. His numbers speak for themselves, but let's call it what it is. He's not a Josh Allen talent right now, so he's way past his prime. He can still get it done. He's dangerous, right? But he's not on that elite level. I mean, that's just the fact. So, but Joe, like, to your point, still got the cannon of an arm. Obviously, he's trusted enough to be a starter for the Browns in the NFL. So he's still got something left to prove, and don't take it lightly. Because if you think it like, okay, Joe Flacco's old and no, like, Joe's going to pick this secondary apart. If we can't get a pass rush together, we're going to sit there and we're going to just, like, come on, like, and we're going to be up in arms and very frustrated. So I feel like it's going to be a long day. And I feel like now you have to watch just every minute, every play with just that cautious optimism. Like, oh, I know they can get it done. They have the offense to get it done, but can they do it? And is the offense going to be enough to score 40 points a week? Probably not. It's going to be one different ways, right? But there was a lot. There was some, and it sucks because there's a lot of good in that game, right? Like the debut of Hopkins and that crazy catch, and Bateman and Zay, and the X factor on Zay. He didn't play in that playoff game against the Bills, and he showed up in a big way on Sunday night, right? Right now, heading into week 2 of the NFL season, the Ravens boast the NFL's leading rusher and the NFL's leading receiver right now. Crazy, right? So, we're not concerned about the offense. The offense is awesome. And for once, it wasn't Lamar's fault for the loss. He didn't turn the ball over himself. He didn't make bad throws. He was efficient. He was magnificent. Just, they got to learn to – Todd Monken's got to create scheme and just know and trust his team and go, okay, we're going to put the ball in our closer's hands and let's go get it. It's an important divisional game this early. It's one of 2 home games in a row, and the Ravens have a tough schedule this year. These first 4 games are going to tell you all. Yeah, you predicted a loss in week 1, but your overall record was pretty good, right? They're going to win 11, 12, 13 games this year, man. So, but I'm a little concerned heading into this Browns game because of the same old Ravens, of the same old, they're their worst enemy. They beat themselves. And I'm just like, I'm waiting for the opportunity. Now, I feel like this could be that get-right game, right? It's a home opener. You're going to have they're celebrating apparently the 30th anniversary of the team. So I think the likes of Ray Lewis might be present. I think they're bringing back some of the championship players in years past. So I think it's going to be an emotionally charged game. The fans are chomping the bit because obviously it's their home opener. It's going to be sunny and warm. It's going to be a great day for Ravens football in Baltimore, and I think it's going to be a good one. But they got to put a lid on. They got to put a cap on what they know they can do, and they got to go down and execute. As simple as that. They got to execute and get it done.
Yeah, and I, like you said, Lamar was not the cause for the loss against Buffalo, but I'm going to put a little bit of the blame on the offense and maybe the offensive coordinator for they got the ball back with a minute 30 left, and they couldn't even get a first down. If they would have gotten that first down, the game would have been over. So this was week 1 was a team loss. The offense couldn't do what they had to do in the last 2 minutes. The defense got eaten alive. Tyler Loop missed an extra point. Like, Derrick Henry lost the ball in that fumble. I know everyone's blaming Derrick Henry for that, but this is more than just a one-man game. This is a team sport, and when one guy falters, the other guy's got to be there to pick him up, and the Ravens didn't do that. But this is a good test, week 2, for the Baltimore Ravens. It's going to be a hometown crowd, a 30th anniversary, like we said. There's going to be Ozzie Newsome is the legend of the game. They're going to have ceremonies and stuff. I believe like the mayor and the governor from 1996 are going to be there on the field as well, that brought the Ravens here. So, I mean, it's going to be a big celebration, but this is going to be a big test. Like we said, Joe Flacco, he can still throw the ball. He's still got an arm. What is the secondary going to do? This secondary, we said, was going to be unstoppable during training camp. Marlon Humphrey missed a tackle during one of the last Bills touchdowns. Like I said, Nate Wiggins got eaten alive by Josh Allen. Jair Alexander did not have a good showing whatsoever in week 1. Malachi Starks is a rookie. You're not expecting the world from him. He's still learning. So this secondary is going to be something to look out for in week 2. Joe Flacco is not going to run the ball, I don't think, a lot because the running game didn't really get anything going in week 1 for the Cleveland Browns. And luckily for the Baltimore Ravens, they kind of shut down the running game of the Buffalo Bills. So if they want to try and run, that was kind of like the bright spot of the defense for the Baltimore Ravens in week 1, was being able to stop the run. So if they can bring pressure to Joe Flacco, if Nnamdi, I know he's at he's not 100%. He did miss Wednesday's practice, but if Nnamdi Madubuike has a good game, Kyle Van Noy has a good game, Roquan, he was almost a non-factor in week 1. It's probably because I bought his jersey over the offseason, but Roquan was not even a factor there. This is going to be a huge test for the defense, because as much fun as it was that the Ravens put up 40 points, the Ravens also let 41 points go on to the scoreboard for the Buffalo Bills. This is a test for the defense. We know what we can expect from the offense. The defense really needs to show up and ball out and do what we expected this Baltimore defense to do in training camp in the offseason. It got bolstered. It was, everybody saying on paper, this was a scary team. Josh Allen wasn't scared. I doubt Joe Flacco is going to be scared too.
Yeah, I think so. You got to know that. Look, if I'm Joe Flacco lining up, I don't think I'm concerned. You heard it. Was it David? Let me look back because I don't want to misquote it, but I think David Njoku was the Browns. Yeah, no, it was Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy said no challenges, right? No challenges when he was asked about the Ravens' pass defense. He's not concerned, and he didn't miss a beat. There's no challenges. So right there, the respect's not there. The Ravens are not respected defensively. And it's crazy. For all those years that the Ravens were known about defense, now the tide has turned and it's a new era in Ravens football. Now it's all offense, right? And unfortunately, that's the way the league's going. But there's another side of football that still needs to be played. It's defense. You have to stop the other offense. And they're not respected. And that's a big problem and a big concern for me, and it should be a concern for all the fan base, right? Because if an opposing player, an opposing divisional player of that is stating no challenges already in week 2 this season, that's a problem. And we still got a lot of great teams to be playing this year, and that's a big concern, man. You don't want that heading into a huge home opener week 2 divisional matchup this early. And you're already seeing the disrespect and the lack of respect, but it's warranted. I wouldn't respect the secondary. It was trash, and it's like they righted the ship in the second half of the season last year and got better, but the secondary was a problem to begin the season last year where they were dead last in pass defense. Couldn't stop anybody, and I've always said the game was won and lost in the trenches, and you're seeing that. without an elite pass rusher, the Ravens have a problem on the line. If they cannot create pressure and get to Joe Flacco in that pocket, it is going to be a long day for this Ravens defense. Yes. And in not getting him off on third down stops and prolonging drives, you don't want to see that in possession time, ball control. And looking at the schemes, run defense, the run defense was solid. That was the kind of bright spot for the defense. If anything, we already know what they're going to get. I mean, Jerome Ford, they deployed Jerome Ford on Sunday, obviously rookie Dylan Sampson, and Quinshon Judkins, who finally signed his deal and he's dealing with off-field issues there. I think he was meeting with the NFL this week. So I don't know what his availability will be just yet for the Browns, but they already got Jerome Ford and the rookie Sampson there. You don't want to take them lightly either, right? It's like, okay, well, you're not playing against Saquon Barkley or anybody this weekend like that, but still, you don't make the stops you need to. These guys can still make plays. I don't want to discount that and disrespect that. So, I'm more confident in the ability for the Ravens to stop the run than they can the pass, and that's where the big flaw and that big concern is the pass defense and limiting what they can do in the air in Joe Flacco. So, but the Ravens are familiar. They're very familiar with what Joe Flacco can do. Obviously, a lot of these players, if not all these players, were not around, when Joe played for the Ravens. So the Ravens know. I mean, they could pull up how many years of tape? I mean, this is a familiar guy. They know his tendencies. They know his strengths and the weaknesses. And it'll be an interesting chess match for sure, how Zach Orr would scheme a game plan and draw up a game plan directly to stop Joe Flacco and what he can do. Because everything's going to be all through him on Sunday for the Browns. And I can't wait to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, it is bittersweet. The first thought was, I thought Joe Flacco, the next time he stepped foot in M&T Bank Stadium, would be to enter the Ring of Honor or be the player of the game or something like that, legend of the game. The fact that he's still doing it, absolutely amazing. And, people have been asking what was it like for Lamar to be there when Joe was still there. And Lamar said, it was my rookie year. I was trying to soak up as much knowledge as I could. So, there's no bad blood between those guys. There doesn't seem like there's any bad blood between Joe and Harbaugh, but this is going to be interesting on both sides because we love Joe Flacco here in Baltimore. Like I said, bringing us our second Super Bowl, MVP of the Super Bowl as well. Like Joe was one of a kind in his era, and we'll see what happens. This will be a big test for the Ravens defense because Joe likes to throw the ball. If the secondary can stand up to him, it's a good sign moving forward that the defense is going to know what they're doing. Now, offensively, I think the offense just needs to continue to do what they're doing. They put up 40 points, like I said, week one. I don't think they need to put up 40 points this week, but I would not be surprised if they did. Again, Myles Garrett, you brought him up, still a factor for the Cleveland Browns. During the offseason, he did ask to be traded, but then they backed up a Brinks truck full of cash to him. And he was like, okay, fine, I'll stay in Cleveland. Yeah, absolutely. I'll take the money. So Myles Garrett's still going to be a factor, still going to be an annoyance here for Baltimore Ravens fans, but one of the best to play the game ever. So he's going to be a factor. Looking back at 2024, the Ravens were shocked by a loss to the Cleveland Browns. I think it was week 8. So it's not out of the realm that the Ravens could lose to the Cleveland Browns. Like we just saw that in week 1. Everything is possible, but I'm thinking with this chip on their shoulder, the embarrassment of being under the lights in prime time against the Buffalo Bills and losing in those last 2 minutes. All of that's got to be a factor in their heads. And with it being the 30th celebration, hometown crowd, home opener, all signs point to a Ravens win. But it's going to be a test, and it's going to be a difficult game. It's not a gimme game. So it really, you got to watch all 60 minutes of that game because you never know what the Ravens are going to do. But going into this game, I feel like this is a learning experience for the defense, for Zach Orr, everybody else. But I do feel like the Ravens can get away with a win on Sunday. I
feel like they can do, but they got to right all the wrongs, and they have to execute and put these concerns to rest. yeah, they can easily get this done, but it's going to be a fight. And we know you can't just throw in your hat and win any single game. You got to go out and execute and make the plays. And, I mean, they're more than capable of doing against the Browns. Obviously, they're the way better team, superior team here. And obviously, I think the Ravens, if I last look, they were favored by double digits. I think it was like 11.5 was the line. So, I mean, the line speaks for itself. The Ravens should easily win this game by 2 scores. It sounds crazy to say that, considering when they get up double digits, we have concerns. So, and it begs the question, would you want this team to play from behind? I mean, now that they've shown they're capable of doing it and they have the firepower to do it, would you rather the Ravens be behind 7 to 10 points late in the like third quarter, early fourth? Or would you want the Ravens to carry that lead and look and hope they can close it out? What scenario would you want?
I want them to be losing at halftime.
Ooh.
That's what I want. And then I want the halftime speeches to happen in the locker room. I want guys to get fired up. And then I want the Ravens to come back all guns a-blazing and just come out in the third quarter and put the game away. If the game is 10-7 at halftime with the Ravens losing and then the final score is 34-17 Ravens, I'd be happy.
I can understand that. I mean, look, at this point, we're going to be happy the Ravens just end up victorious at this point. I don't care how they get it done, whether they come from behind or actually hold the lead and solidify it. But they just got at the end of the day, when the clock hits 0 in the fourth, they got to have more points than the other team. I don't care. They can get outgained all they want. They can do this. They can, lose the turnover battle and still win the game. I don't care. Just score more points than the Browns, please, and just win the game. Just win the game. Let us get back to 500, 1-1, and all's right with the world. And you run an own division early on. It would be a big stain for the Ravens if they come out of this game 0-2, losing to Joe Flacco and the Browns. There's been jokes amongst my friends in the group chats, and we're like, I said, the Ravens lose to the Browns and Joey Flacco. There might be some for sale signs on some houses there. I said, we'd be going. Like, I even told you, I joked about it. I said, we'd be going. I don't want to be coming to you next week and we have to talk about that. Now, what's interesting enough, the whole sky is falling season over mentality. Folks forget the Ravens were 0-2 last year to start the season.
That's right.
Crazy enough, they lost that heartbreaker in Arrowhead. Then they come here and lose 10, and that's what's crazy. They lose a 10-point lead in fourth quarter to the Raiders. Here we go again, 0-2. What happened? They made the division round of playoff and won the division. Starting 0-2 sucks, and it's a big hole, but it's a hole that they've climbed out before. But the problem is, then you got to go on a winning streak. And you got to beat the Lions and beat the Chiefs team just to get back to 500 before you enter October. So the road gets that more harder because if you look at the schedule, I don't want to get into a Chiefs preview 2 weeks because this is probably going to be different right now, but the Chiefs are depleted in receiving corps. So playing the Chiefs might not be a bad idea right now, considering they're early on without Worthy, and obviously don't have Rashee Rice for 5 games. So it bodes in the Ravens' favor, but it's still Mahomes in that. But they have to play the Lions at home, who have a dangerous offense. Obviously, they had a abysmal week 1 in Lambeau. But again, we've always said week 1's a liar. This is more like preseason. It's more preseason-ish for the starters because it's their first licks at a true NFL game since they last come back and played, when the season ended for them, whenever it ended, whether it was regular season or playoffs. So, but they got to start with this one. The winning starts now, and what better way to get back to 500 and get back in the win column here, or the first win column in 2025 season, and get the home opener out of the way, get the divisional win out of the way, and then all eyes are on Monday Night Football at home against the Lions. So, but again, you start 0-2, that means these next 2 games are that much more torqued up, that much more pressure packed, because now you got to win, because if the Lions come in here and beat the Ravens, you're staring at 0-3 right in the face. And then now we're talking like, is the season really done? First quarter of the season. So now it's just a 1 week playoff. You just got to just take it. And that's all we have to do, right? Fans can talk about all they want and look at the schedule, but that player mentality, right? It is a 1 week season. Who cares about the Lions? Who cares about the Chiefs? Who cares about the Dolphins on Thursday Night Football later this year? It doesn't matter. What matters now is the Cleveland Browns at home on Sunday, and they got to win. I'm not dubbing this as a must win, but again, we just covered it. You don't want to put yourself in that position where now you got to come, if you're lining up on Monday Night Football and you're 0-2 and you got to beat the Lions just to get your first win, it's going to be tough. Then you got to go to Arrowhead week 4. Yeesh. Like, you just got to get this win. Just get this win no matter what. Put everything to rest and then move forward. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome. The Ravens, again, have a lot of celebrations. Now, what's awesome is they're doing everything they do, right? The giveaways, they're giving away a flag with the 30th season shield. There's A-10 Warhawks doing the flyover. They're actually introducing a defense. So it'll be interesting to see the reception there because obviously we know they didn't put a good showing on. Obviously, you talked about it. You mentioned Ozzy's a legend of the game, and there'll probably be so many other legends there to celebrate the 30th season of the Ravens. But what's interesting about the festivities on Sunday, Brandon, is I was at the Orioles game 2 weeks ago. I was there last week, I think. Apparently, the new flock shop at Gate A, they're building those structures out front. Apparently, they said new flock shop opens. So I'm like, I don't know, unless these guys worked around the clock 24/7, these construction guys, which we applaud and appreciate all their hard work they're doing there. I'm interested to see how much progress, because when I looked, it was a shell of itself. There was like materials everywhere. There wasn't really anything built. It was just the structure and the shell of it. So I'd be interested to see what progress was made in about a week and a half to 2 weeks. So I'm interested to see what the flock shop looks like. Obviously, if I get out there, I'll take photos for fans and post on the socials. But they're making new enhancements at the stadium, and it's awesome. I love being at the games. Love M&T Bank Stadium. It's the premier. It's one of the premier stadiums in the league. Even with opposing fans visiting, they always said this place is really nice. So can't wait to be at the bank. It's going to be hopefully ruckus. It always is. But, with I think the crowd has big concerns and there's a lot of chatter. And you just hope the crowd can get into it all early and often and rise up as the flock and come out and support the Ravens and pack the bank. And hopefully we can certainly root the team hard on for a win.
Yeah, let me tell you, I went to on the 10th, on Wednesday, I went down to the stadium for the car stenciling. And of course, I went right before work. I was there around like 7:30. There was nobody there. I was like one of 3-4 cars that were getting their cars stenciled. So I don't know if this week 1 loss, really ticked people off that they're not participating. It was a little drizzly out, but there was not a lot of people there when I was there. I got there early-ish, like 7 o'clock. So maybe people on their way to work or taking the kids to school after they dropped them off went to go do it. But when I was there, not a lot of people were there. But as I was leaving, like you said, there was a lot of construction still going on at the stadium. So I think I was on the opposite side of Gate A when I got back up on 95. They're building something there at like the corner where, if you make that right, you're getting on 95. That's still like just the foundation of whatever is being built there. I'm not sure what it is. I think the flock shop is on the other side of the stadium, so I don't know how much is done of that. But the stadium is definitely still a construction site. They're definitely doing a lot of work, and I know they're doing this in phases, and it's going to take a couple years. But M&T Bank definitely getting a facelift and some different things being added in, and it's going to look a lot different. But right now, it's still very much under construction.
Oh yeah, but the improvements should be awesome for the fan experience. So again, looking to see what progress they make, because apparently they're advertising that shop should be open. So I don't think if everything should be done, but apparently they made enough progress to advertise that the flock shop will be open on in Gate A. So can't wait to see it. I know they made a lot of enhancements so far that I've seen. Even just attending the preseason game, I've checked out some things. They've added the black wing. I heard they added new end zone seating, like field level end zone seating down, in the end zone across from me. So, and they've added like the LED boards on top of that. So they've definitely made the improvements. Certainly can't wait. it's always fun. They're just trying to make it a lot bigger and better. And with everybody else getting new stadiums, you have to upkeep the house that you have. I hate to see them having to rip down this one and have to build another one, which is costly. But the Bills are getting a new stadium, the Titans are getting a new stadium, and apparently now Denver is. So. So we'll see, but you got to keep upkeep, and as we know and love, Oriole Park and Camden Yards is a jewel, right across the street on the same property there at Russell Street. So, it remains to be seen. By the way, speaking of stadiums and all that, I do want to say a remark. Being at Camden Yards is always an awesome atmosphere. Love it. By the way, the O's are doing phenomenal right now. They've had 4 walk-offs in 5 games. It's insane. And I covered it the same weekend that the Ravens had a debacle. The O's were getting no hit with 1 out left and won the game. So they turned the tide in history and came back, which was awesome. So, but with that, I was going to say, I hope and pray that our beloved Baltimore Orioles do not ever sell those naming rights to that stadium for the sake of money, because it should always and always will be Oriole Park and Camden Yards. I hope it isn't something like State Farm Field or something crazy because I would hate to see that. That would be a travesty.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. There's something special about Oriole Park whenever you're there. It's a beautiful stadium. It's again, it back when it was built, it was, the front runner, and everybody was copying Oriole Park after it was built. So beautiful place, great place to see a ball game. If you do come, if you're from an out of towner and you do come into Baltimore for a Ravens game and the Orioles happen to be in town as well, make it a doubleheader. Go see the O's one night, go watch the Ravens another. You will have a blast, and it's just absolutely beautiful there. So, Josh, I think we've covered everything for this show. I know we said we both predicted a Ravens win back in the schedule release. We both said a Ravens win as well. But have we covered everything for this episode of The Call?
We sure have, Brandon. With darkness there and nothing more. Let's quote the Raven, nevermore, or as the new thing this year is forevermore.
That's right. Forevermore and more and more. That's what we want from these Baltimore Ravens. So make sure you're social with the show. Follow us over on Facebook, facebook.com/The Call Podcast. Like us over there. Whenever a new show comes out, you'll be the first to know. Write us an Apple Podcast review. Rate us over on Spotify. Let everybody know. Say, I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan. I listen to The Call, and you should too. So before we get out of here, I do want to bring this up. We are recording this on Thursday, and it is September 11th. It's the 24th anniversary of the attack in New York, in Washington, D.C., and the fight back in Pennsylvania. I was just a teenager when 9/11 happened for me. It was a very dark day in American history and in world history. Today I'll never forget. And I'm always hit kind of hard on 9/11 because that day had a huge impact on me in my life. And it's just a sad day. So I just wanted to say, we will never forget. And as the 24th anniversary, there's a ton of people, a lot of people online, kids that we know that don't know the history of 9/11 and what it was like that day. And I just want to say, if you do have a younger generation in your life, share that experience you had growing up when this happened, because it was a tragic time. And I'll never forget September 11th, 2001, still thinking about it today, 24 years later, still has an impact on my life. And it really was a dark day. So I just want to say we're remembering those that we lost, those that fought back on United 93. It's just a date that will definitely live in infamy. It's etched in history. September 11th, 2001. So that's what I think about 9/11. And I think that's pretty much it for the show this week. So Josh, take us out the way you always do.
You betcha, Brandon, and I will certainly follow that up with my own remarks. I never forget that day. I knew exactly what I was doing as young as I was. I remember how everything was going down. I remember my initial reactions to it. Unbelievable, still to this day. And hopefully, it's never forgotten, right? You never want the dust to settle on something like this. We're grateful that something like this has never happened like that on that magnitude since then. But, we just need to come together, as a nation, and just be united. And I'm certainly, my thoughts and prayers are always with the families that are impacted, and everybody's impacted on that from that day differently. And we certainly, we're always thinking about that day in remembrance, and it's a day in history that we'll never forget. So we certainly, I certainly, want to say, God bless to all the first responders across the nation. I remember how that day went, and how intense of a job those first responders must have had that day, and I couldn't imagine being in those shoes. So, we thank everybody for their service, and we certainly remember all that was impacted, and certainly the lives lost and the families that were impacted. But with that being said, got to carry us into the Browns matchup. It's going to be a huge divisional heavyweight matchup. The return of Joe Flacco to Baltimore. He had some interesting comments to say, right? Obviously, he said he's got some memories here, as we know. He's won a championship here. It's right there on the wall. Super Bowl 47 MVP. Joey Flacco holding the trophy. So, can never forget, Joe. We'll never forget. But we're going to be quick to forget, because you know what? You're lining up as a Brown on Sunday. You're a Brown. You're an enemy. Boo. We hate you. Nah, we love you, Joe, but we sure don't like the Browns. So, and we don't like that you're trying to win a football game against our Baltimore Ravens. So, Ravens, can you please find it in you to close out games and moving forward this season with some dubs? I know everybody's frustrated. Everybody's up in arms. Everybody just doesn't know what to think anymore. There's some fans who are just giving up. They're just, I'm done. And rightfully so. Everybody's fed up, but stay the course. Stay with us. It's only week 1, and the Ravens have every opportunity here to prove to us and the world here that they mean business, and they're back, and they can get it done. Get it done against the Brownies and come away with the all-important dub. How about it? Lining up on Sunday at M&T Bank at the home opener. Legends never die, and legends will be in the house. Baltimore Ravens, how about it? Let's fly high.
This has been a production of Brando Cash Entertainment. Music by Brad Lepore and Daniel Kelly from the DBK Studio. For more information, go to brandocash.com.